After giving up 12 goals in just 2 games and 2 periods against the Vancouver Canucks, Stuart Skinner will sit tonight as Calvin Pickard is set to make his first start since April 17th. More importantly, his first ever playoff start as the Oil try to even up their series with the Vancouver Canucks. Let's head to Edmonton. Here's Rishaug and Farhan Lalji. Guys, I can't believe we're talking about the goaltending in a series with the Edmonton Oilers again. On the heels of the fact that Connor McDavid didn't have a single shot on net in Game 1. Connor McDavid did not have a single point in Game 3, despite playing almost 30 minutes. Should we not be focusing more on McDavid and not on the goaltending, Shogger?
It's a good question, Gino, but that's the beauty of YouTube, right? That we got all the time in the world on this magical platform, so we can definitely do both. So you tell me, where would you like to start? Would you like to start with the goaltending, which is a massive story today, but we also got news on McDavid too. So, Gino, you're the boss. You're driving this ship. What do you want first?
I want to start on McDavid because here's the deal. Calvin Pickard, he's probably going to give up 3 or 4, which won't be enough if Connor McDavid doesn't get scoring. I realize McDavid's McDavid, and it's only a matter of time till he breaks out. Is tonight the night, and what are they going to do to give him every opportunity to do that?
Yeah, so fundamentally there's going to be a shift in what's going on the lines here tonight. They're going to separate McDavid and Draisaitl. They're going to put them on different lines at least to start the game. And then, Gino, I believe what they're going to do is dress 7 defensemen. A couple of Oiler D-men are banged up. I think Philip Broberg will go in. Now, what that means is they dress 11 forwards. So here's what we're going to see. We're going to see Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl rotating through those other sets of wingers. This is a way for Chris Knoblauch to get McDavid and Draisaitl the big minutes that he wants to get them, but not have to sit everybody else down for the rest of the game. That's been a problem here, Gino, is that they haven't been giving enough guys enough ice time to meaningfully contribute. Now, those players haven't been playing well enough to earn more ice time, so it's a little bit of a give and take, right? Chris Knoblauch met with a bunch of depth players today, and he basically, I think the deal is, I'm going to get you more ice time, you get going. So I think we're going to see lots of McDavid and Draisaitl, Gino, but to your point, they're going to be separated. They're going to look for more from others, and we'll see if McDavid can, do we call it a bounce-back performance? They dominated play so much, they just didn't finish.
Well, and in Game 2, I mean, when he came off that Game 1 performance, Game 2, he was shot out of a cannon. So I think McDavid's been extremely noticeable. But, I do think in Game 3 that Draisaitl was probably a little better than McDavid. And now you've got Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Zach Hyman on that line. When those three have played together, they've been pretty dynamic as well. And then if you rotate McDavid and Draisaitl through the bottom pairs, or through the bottom lines, you're also going to get them out against some of Vancouver's bottom lines as well, more so than maybe what you have before. So I think McDavid has been extremely noticeable in this series, and he's going to get his fingerprints on it no matter what.
We saw the cross-check at the end of the game. We've been talking about it for the last couple of days now. Zadorov got fined for it. Susie got suspended for it. Zadorov came out on Twitter making the comment, I want to get this right. Unfortunately, that's the world we're living in. They have to protect their investment. That's my understanding. Nice job of Zadorov getting it out there saying you just got the call because it's McDavid.
Sign the man.
What are you guys expecting? What do you expect? I don't care about whether it was suspension or not. We're past that. What are you expecting right now? Is anybody going to have to step up for McDavid and say, you can't do that to our guy?
So, I mean, listen, will Zadorov perhaps be challenged? There's potential there. I mean, Evander Kane is a guy that could probably handle that matchup. If you're Nikita Zadorov, are you taking that fight? You could make an argument that if those two fight, that's advantage Edmonton.
Absolutely.
Because of the role that Zadorov has played. So, Gino, I don't know if the Oilers are going to risk taking penalties and putting a good Vancouver power play at work. I think to a degree they have to let that go. Maybe the evidence is in the Alex Pietrangelo situation, that slash on Leon Draisaitl. It's not like there was some big Donnybrook that ensued the next game, and that was way more vicious than what we just saw. So I get that people think that's unacceptable, but the player's been suspended. This is a must-win game. I think you'll see the Oilers err on the side of caution. Now, if Sam Carrick were in the lineup tonight, I think it would be different. I think you'd see him all night long trying to get Zadorov to go, but I'm not sure that that's what we'll see tonight.
Yeah, Zadorov's pretty smart for that right now. He understands his importance on this team, Gino, and Kane challenged him earlier in the series, and Zadorov wasn't going to go, and he knows that's a bigger loss for Vancouver. Kane's been pretty invisible in this series other than when Zadorov took him and put him over the bench, right? So I don't think there's a need for Zadorov to want to go there at that point with a player like that, or Carrick if he was in the lineup. And I think you're going to see Zadorov get an even more elevated role in the absence of Carson Soucy, because Soucy and Myers were the pairing that Rick Tocchet wanted to get out against McDavid and Draisaitl most often. Now, Tocchet has said, look, we're going to go through by committee in terms of how their pairs are going to look, but he also said that he likes Ian Cole and Noah Juleson, who's going to enter the lineup. He likes the two of them together. It allows Cole to play on his left side. He's a left-handed defenseman, and so I think even though he wants to go by committee, I think the original plan is going to elevate Zadorov alongside of Myers, which means seeing a lot of McDavid. So he's too important to want to get into all of that stuff.
And by the way, an underrated part of that quote that I don't know if it made it to Twitter or not, but one of the Vancouver reporters said, well, why aren't they protecting you? And he said, I guess I don't make as much money for the league. So
he might next year.
Yeah, he might.
Yeah,
a couple tongue-in-cheek comments from him. But the other thing to note here, guys, we asked for Zadorov yesterday after he'd been fined, and the Canucks media did not make him available. Like they said he is not. He was literally sitting there in the room, and they're like, he's not talking. They were worried about what he might say. So that's with 24 hours to cool off and come up with it when he came up with it. I wish he would have talked yesterday.
He even said that I've had 48 hours to think about it, right? So I think he probably on his own decided not to talk. Obviously the $5,000 isn't going to make a big difference, but he probably does feel slighted somewhat that he gets stitches because of a Zach Hyman cross-check after his. Nothing happens to Hyman. Nothing happens for McDavid for a post-game slash or what have you. So, yeah, I could only imagine what it would have looked like yesterday. Yeah.
Well, special teams, guys. Ryan, you and I were talking about the Oilers' power play, not just their power play, but the PK through the first round of these playoffs. In the last two games, the Vancouver Canucks power play, 3 for 6. Farhan, what have they figured out? What have they discovered to take advantage of a PK that really wasn't giving up anything in the opening round?
Yeah, I think they believe they've got some secrets, but they haven't been happy with their power play. And I say that obviously they're happy with the results.
They're 3 for 6 in the last two.
Absolutely, but we talked to JT Miller, and
he didn't like it.
Even Rick Tocchet, he's like, we've been opportunistic. We haven't been good enough in terms of how we try to gain the zone. So if you look at the Canucks power plays, like, yeah, they either score or they don't even get set up. Right? Like they don't even establish any zone time at the other end. It's been that hot and cold. So, they need to find a way to be a little more consistent in their approach because quite often, even if you don't score on the power play, you can gain some momentum going into the next 5-on-5 shift. The Canucks haven't done that when they haven't scored. So they need to gain the zone. They need to enter with more consistency, whether it's Quinn Hughes taking it up ice, whether it's the drop back, whether they're passing it in, dumping it in and trying to retrieve it. They haven't been consistent there. So I think they believe there's another level for them to go. And quite honestly, I think they've been happy with their penalty kill. Yep. And I know when you look early in the series, you're like, how is that possible? But Edmonton gets a couple of late power play goals. Their second power play unit scored off a fortunate bounce where it was late in the power play, and all of a sudden a deflected pass makes its way to Ekholm with a wide open net. I think they like their process on their PK. So right now, at the end of the day, even if you have a good process, even if Edmonton doesn't feel good about their power play, they're still going to get theirs. It's just a case of, can Vancouver prevent Edmonton's special teams from taking over the series like they did against LA? If they can come out net neutral, they like their chances at 5-on-5. And the big topic around Edmonton has been they need more from their other players at 5-on-5 and not be so power play dependent as they were the other night.
All right, let's get to Calvin Pickard. We can't stall on that much longer. This is a guy who's never started a postseason game. But Schauger, I looked at the numbers. From the time Knobloch took over the club, Calvin Pickard's goals against is actually better than Stuart Skinner's. So is it just me, or does it not seem like that much of a drop-off to go to Pickard, except for the fact he's got no playoff experience?
Yeah, so there's the lack of playoff experience, and there's the fact that he has barely played at all for the last month, basically. There's those two things you kind of, he saw some shots the other night. But this is the picture I'll paint for you on Calvin Pickard. One of the best stories in the league this year in terms of a guy resurrecting his career, right? When things fell through the floor with Jack Campbell, Calvin Pickard was the guy that got called up. Nobody knew how long it was going to be for. Well, Calvin Pickard played well enough for the Oilers to keep a $5 million goalie in the minors for the rest of the year. Like, that says something. Because and Campbell played well in the minors. They wouldn't send Pickard down because he was playing so well. The team has confidence in front of him. He played excellent. He's a better puck handler than Stuart Skinner. And he's one of the most well-liked players in the room. Couple that with the fact that he's resurrected his career. And it's an amazing feel-good story this year for Calvin Pickard. So this team will play hard in front of him. He's shown consistency, Gino. I felt that this is what they were going to do. I felt that this is what they should do, and I think they're making the right decision because when Stuart Skinner's game went the wrong way last year, He had a hard time getting it back, and they refused to go to Jack Campbell, who was playing well in relief. They kept going to Skinner. They kept going to Skinner. They're not going to make that potential mistake again this year. They're changing it up.
Yeah, and you talked to Pickard this morning, and he just feels like he's, I don't want to say playing with house's money, but he just doesn't want to make this game bigger than it is, right? He seems like a pretty relaxed guy, talking on a game day, and he just doesn't want to make the game too big. He's been in the situation before, at least facing Vancouver in front of this team. And from a Canucks standpoint, I'm not sure they're going to look down the ice and say, oh, this is going to be easy. We got a young goaltender, because their young goaltender's playing pretty well. There's no reason why Pickard can't do the same. And the last time these two guys met was actually in the American League playoffs a year ago, Pickard versus Shilovs. Shilovs wound up getting the win in that one. Not sure you can take anything from that into this, but they're familiar with one another as well.
Shilovs is now 3-0 on the road in these playoffs. If he makes that 4-0 tonight in Edmonton, it's hard to imagine the Edmonton Oilers surviving and advancing beyond this second round.